Healthy Living, Happy Midlife. I'm your host, Denise Stegall, the Menopause Mentor. And today I want to talk about one of the biggest myths in the health and wellness arena. The idea that there is one perfect diet or one right way to live healthy. I know you've heard it before: go vegan, cut carbs, eat all protein, or avoid eggs because of cholesterol. And yet for every headline that says something is good, there's another that says it's bad. No wonder so many of us in midlife are frustrated and confused. Here's the truth. There is no one size fits all. The healthiest plan is the one that works for you and the one that fits your body, your preferences, and your season of life in menopause. In this episode, we'll dust a few common myths, talk about why balance always beats extremes, and explore how you can start building a lifestyle that feels good and actually lasts. So if you're ready to stop chasing trends and discover what works for you, let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back, my friends, to Healthy Living, Happy Midlife podcast. I'm Denise Stegall, your host and menopause mentor. Today, we are going to talk about something that I know you've seen over and over again, right? Okay. And like since you were 16, that this is the way to live a healthy lifestyle. Like there is one way, it's the only way, right? How many times have we heard that? But let me say this up front. It's a myth, it's a farce, it's BS. There is no perfect diet. There is no perfect lifestyle, right? At least there's not a perfect one for everyone, right? The perfect one is what's best and what works for you. And I know I talk about this on and off, especially when it comes to eat real food, all of that. The challenge that we have with, especially when people, ladies come to me, they want to lose weight and, they've been on this diet and that diet. The challenge about the perfect diet, they're always searching for the perfect diet. This one didn't work, but this next one will, right? Think about it. One week, the headlines scream about, the fact that veganism is the way to go. And I have a lot of friends who are vegan, right? I believe in a plant-forward diet, but that's not vegan, right? The next week, of course, we hear keto. And I've been hearing too much about keto as much as I had been for a few years, though. Right? So, for a while, keto was the star. It was like everybody was on keto. And there are different variations of that too, right? But with keto, then it's all about, keto is about actually high fat, low carb, and, kind of moderate amounts of protein, which, okay, moderate amounts of protein are good. We need our protein. But the challenge is when we're looking for, we're going to go on low carb, we're going to go on high protein, we're going to go on high fat. The challenge with all of these trends is like, it's like fashion week. It changes like every fashion week actually only happens once a year, but the trends with diet seem to change weekly, monthly, like each quarter, there's like new stuff, new research coming out, right? And if you've ever tried to keep up with all of this stuff, let me tell you something. It's exhausting, right? Trying to keep on top of all the current diets and all the current workouts and all, you know what? It's ridiculous. The truth really is, if you dig deep enough, you will find research studies that are going to support just about any approach. This is a challenge because then again, what do you believe, right? Plant-based eating. Like I said, I go with a plant-forward diet. My husband actually is a little bit more protein-forward, right? He's a man, I'm a woman. He's 68, I'm 54. But still, so go back to plant-based. Studies say that it reduces inflammation and supports longevity. That's great. Well, it makes sense. Okay, animal protein, other research will show that it's essential for strength and resilience, right? Plant-based people are going to tell you that no, animal protein, you don't need animal protein. Animal protein is bad. But the animal protein people are going to say, well, you really can't, increase muscle mass with plant-based foods. And of course, there are people in the world who are very successful at doing just that. Especially I know there's a handful of bodybuilders who are plant-based. Granted, this is their job, so to speak. So this is something that they are doing every minute of every day, right? They may even have a chef or somebody preparing their meals, right? I don't know about you, but I'm the one preparing my meals most of the time. That and for my husband, right? So again, see where we're kind of going, oh, so what, Denise, this or that? Bear with me, right? Remember when back in the day when we said, what did they say? Eggs were bad. You have to stay away from eggs because of cholesterol. And for years, people avoided them. I don't know how many people like I know, like they just had the egg white omelet, which had absolutely no flavor. All of the nutrition is actually in the yolk, which they were avoiding, right? But here's the challenge. Here's the thing here. It's a bit of a nuance. Your body actually needs cholesterol, right? It is a building block for our hormones and cell function. And I don't know about you ladies, but when we talk about hormones, especially in midlife, this makes my ears perk up. I'm like, ooh, building block for hormones. Where our hormones are starting to decline. We need to pay attention here, right? The problem isn't whether you enjoy your scrambled eggs for breakfast, obviously. It is the type of cholesterol and how it circulates in the body. But the studies don't talk about that. Or maybe the studies do, but the media and the people who are touting these uh, situations or these different diets, they're just saying the small sound bite, so to speak, right? No, eggs have cholesterol. Well, duh. And again, we need cholesterol, so it's kind of like they're giving you half a story, right? So let me take another example, and this one's a hoot for me. Remember the fat free craze? And I know most of you who are listening, you're like, yeah, Denise, fat free crazy. Yep. And we're still kind of thinking that that's a good thing, right? It sounded great on paper, right? Less fat, gain less weight. But here's what really happened. And before I even get there. So when I was in college, I had a roommate who would buy these like fat free cookies and fat free this and fat free that. And it was cookies and cakes and all of the things that, are basically not food or not real food. And then she would eat like a whole box of Captain Crunch with crunch berries. But because she had the fat-free stuff, this was like, oh, it's okay, right? But here's exactly, so this is what really happened when it came to fat-free, right? They took the fat out and everyone went, yay! But what the heck did they replace it with? Sugar and additives. Why? Because when they took out the fat, they took out the flavor and they basically tasted like cardboard. So they had to put something back in so people would buy them. And what we ended up getting was an entire generation hooked on processed foods, which basically laid the groundwork for what we now call the standard American diet, the SAD diet, right? Processed foods, processed meats, everything out of a box or a bag, all of those things. Not that you need to avoid them 100% of the time, right? Nothing is perfect, and I don't expect anyone to ever be perfect. I'm not perfect. Shoot, I just yesterday bought a small bag or a personal size bag of Quest chips that are kind of like Doritos. Now they're protein chips, and when you look in what's in them, it's nothing really. I mean, it's almost like eating air, but for 140 calories, I'm eating air. But it was something that, for whatever reason, I was just craving something with a crunch, right? I'm not going to beat myself up over it. It's one little bag, right? So I'm obviously not addicted to this stuff, but every now and then it's okay, right? So this is a perfect example on about how these trends can backfire. So what I have learned working with myself as my N of one, and also working with countless women in midlife, that your health is personal, right? Some women really do thrive on mostly plant-based lifestyle. I have two friends who their whole world revolves around plant-based cooking. I mean, they're part of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and they're true proponents. And yes, they are thin, but they also live the lifestyle. Uh, they exercise, they get sleep, they have stress relief, they have close connections with people. So they have like the all around lifestyle that is really important, right? So those are people that I know that are thriving thus far on a plant-based um, lifestyle. I hate to say diet. I hate the word diet because that always means restriction in our brains, right? But then again, I have more people that are better off. They feel better. They have better muscle mass when they're eating chicken and fish and lean proteins, and they've, not exclusively. They add those to the mix, and the whole idea of 100 grams of protein, right? And we do talk about, eating protein. If you're going to have protein, have protein, in each meal. When it comes to animal-based proteins, you can reach 100 grams of proteins really freaking fast, right? 6 ounce piece of chicken is about 100 grams of protein. Well, if that's what they're saying, what we think is the appropriate amount, again, depending on who you are, size, shape, all of that, you're good with 6 ounces of chicken. So if you're eating more protein than you need, kind of like taking supplements, your body can't use it. And so it's either going to store it or it's going to eliminate it. Huh. Okay. Um, so obviously the key is not to follow every trend that shows up in your social media feed. I know, ladies, trust me, I was looking at Facebook this morning and there's already 3 or 4 that I've seen. And I'm like, really? Another one of these? We're going back to that. Right. Instead, ask yourself these questions. Do I have steady energy throughout the day with the way I'm eating? Am I sleeping soundly? Am I waking up in the middle of the night and I'm hungry? Does my digestion feel good? Right? Are you do you have when you are digesting food, do you get indigestion? Are you going to the bathroom regularly? These are important questions, right? Your answers to those questions are actually more valuable than reading and changing your diet again, right? If you have steady energy throughout the day, that's a good sign that what you're eating is giving you what you need. If you're sleeping, now, of course, during menopause, that's always a bit of a challenge. But when you're asleep, are you sleeping well? Um, and digestion is such a challenge because as we get older, our digestion does kind of take a hit. So if we are noticing that it's not really great right now, then those are signs that we need to take a look and maybe make some tweaks. Not change your diet, but make some tweaks, right? Okay, I love these myth busts. Myth busts. I love to bust the myths. I love to bust the myths. Okay, so debunking myths. Easy for me to say. Okay, so these are, I mean, you've heard these over and over and over again, right? Carbs are not the enemy, right? Low carb, we just talked about that, not good. What are carbs? What do they do? Carbs actually are your body's preferred source of fuel. Now, again, the keto people will tell you, no, 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 it's ketones. You must have increased your ketones. Okay, whatever. If that's what you want to do, fine, have at it. I will support you in that. The issue, of course, is the refined carbs, right? The pasta, the pizza, the white bread, the cakes and the cookies, and all of those things that you get at the store that are stores and shops that are in boxes and bags and cookies, all of the things, right? Kind of the things that we used to call treats when I was growing up. Right. So again, it's the refined carbs. It's not the ones that you're going to find in fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes. Those are the good ones. Those are the eat real food type of carbs. So the question I have for you here is, are you eating a good balance of those things? And those things are actually going to help with your digestion. And if your digestion is better, it's actually going to help with your sleep. And again, if you're eating these good carbs, it's actually going to give you more energy. Ta-da! Carbs are good, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Okay. Protein is always better. Again, not necessarily. Yes, protein is essential, but again, balance matters. Too much can actually strain your kidneys. Too little leaves you weak and fatigued. And as we're getting older, this whole menopause thing is our estrogen and is dropping. The our risk of losing muscle, sarcopenia, and bone loss, right? Osteoporosis. These increase. So again, it's about balance, right? And I know my sister has a friend who decided that like the carnivore diet was for her. I have no idea why. This woman, for most of the time that I've known her, has been a heavy woman. So yeah, she's gone from diet to diet, and this was the new trend that uh, that she's kind of jumped on that bandwagon. The challenge with that, of course, is um, too much of anything becomes a negative, right? And at some point, um, what are the detriments? Like, what is her body not getting, right? It's definitely not getting fiber if you're eating uh, all meat, right? Um, and if you're not eating any fiber, beans, legumes, leafy vegetables, fruits, you're going to have some trouble digesting. You're going to have some trouble going to the bathroom. So again, going back to those three questions that I mentioned before, do you have the energy? Are you sleeping okay? Is your digestion the way where it should be? Or is it affecting all of the above? Okay, this is one that I struggle with, and um, I believe in supplementation. However, supplements cannot and should not replace your food. They can support your diet, but they can't actually mimic the magic that whole foods, real foods, contain, right? Your fiber, your phytonutrients, your antioxidants, all of those work together. And no, you can't get them in supplement form. It just doesn't work the same in your body, right? And there are hundreds of thousands probably at this point of supplements out there. This is good for this is good for that. And all of a sudden, I had a client a couple of years ago who was taking like 30 different pills twice a day. And I thought, well, wait a minute, what are you taking? And if you're taking all of these supplements, how do you know what's working? Right? You don't. And so she was spending something like $300 plus a month on supplements, but she still was struggling with her weight. She still didn't feel good. She still didn't have energy. So once we took a look at, the rest of her diet meaning the foods that she eats, um, there were huge holes in her diet where she was trying to fill in with these supplements. Uh, and, once we got her on a regular, um, let's just say, eating pattern, because it was sporadic, she ate out a lot. She was, kind of always in the mindset that if you want to lose weight, you have to starve yourself. And so all of these things, like that was replacing food for her. The supplements were. So you can see this pattern here, right? Real health doesn't actually live in absolutes. It lives in balance. It's always about balance. Now, it's never 100%. It's never perfectly equal. It's like, we talk about work-life balance. There's never such a thing because there are some days when work is just, it takes precedence. And then there are other days when, your family or your desires, your hobbies, those things take precedence, right? On a weekend, yeah, I might work here and there on a weekend, but typically, I shut down my office at 4 o'clock on Friday. And I tend not to come back to my desk until 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday, right? That to me is some kind of balance. And it's the same thing with uh, our health and our lifestyle, right? All of these things matter and uh, they're all kind of pieces of the puzzle, let's just say. So what we're really looking for here, what are we really looking for? What's the healthiest lifestyle? Everybody wants to know. And I do not have that answer, right? What is the healthiest lifestyle? Question is, for whom? The healthiest lifestyle for you, if you don't know what that is, we can certainly work to figure that out. I've worked hard for many, many years to figure out the lifestyle, that healthy lifestyle that works for me. And yes, every few years I have to tweak it. As I've gotten older, my body is changing. My body's needs change. And so for me, though, having the foundation, and this is really important, having a foundation of a healthy lifestyle, whatever that actually means for you, is essential, because then as things start to work differently and you notice that you need to make some changes, it's simple because you already have a foundation. It's like you're not starting over. Like every time you start a new diet, right? You're starting over again, right? When you live a healthy lifestyle and you need to make a change, you're not starting over, right? You're just making little, tweaking, upping it up a notch, or, turning it down a notch, those kinds of things. So, like, for example, right? If you hate kale, my husband hates kale. He will not eat it. Anything that says kale. I mean, he said to me the other day, we were in Minneapolis. We were going to go to a restaurant that looked really nice. We were going to just have a salad or something like that. And he says to me, he looked at the menu and goes, "Nope, it's a kale restaurant." Which I knew was not going to be, there was not going to be something on the menu that he really enjoyed. So, like my husband, if you hate kale, don't force yourself to eat it, right? Because forcing yourself to eat it is not going to last, right? It's like going on a diet and, I'm going to go on the grapefruit diet, and you hate grapefruit. Yeah, you might, struggle with it, suck it down for a couple of days, and then you're like, all right, I hate this stuff, right? So it doesn't make sense, right? If you feel good with having, if you want to have chicken or fish or steak a couple times a week, and then you want to do a couple of plant-based dinners, that's great, right? Whatever works for you. I mean, I know for me, I spend probably a good chunk of the day focused on plant-based foods, so because I really enjoy them. But I love to make different salads and different dishes. Um, so those are things that I enjoy. But I also know, as a runner and somebody who wants to make sure that I am not just keeping the muscle that I have, but I'm still, growing muscle. I know that I need some animal protein throughout the week, right? So as much as I am plant forward, that doesn't mean that that's 100%. And I did go through a period where I was vegetarian, and that was great. But I also wasn't running as much. And I certainly wasn't exercising or working out with resistance training as much as I do now. Right. I was a little younger. Um, and my body was still, my body wasn't going through this crazy change called menopause. Right. So again, I had to make some changes, had to make some tweaks. So the goal, of course, here is to build let's just say this, build a personal wellness blueprint. Okay. Right. We got blueprints, so we kind of can always go back to them. Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't like this one. We'll make a little change, but that blueprint has to fit you. Right. And it has to include the foods you enjoy, um, even occasionally a piece of pizza or a donut. Never going to get those out of my diet. Movement that energizes you, right? If you hate running, don't run, right? Bike or do something else when it comes to cardio. At this stage in life, ladies, we do need resistance training. But if resistance training and, just watching a video, if that doesn't float your boat, go to a gym, go to take a class at a gym, find a personal trainer, find something that works for you, right? And also practices that support your mind and body, whether that's meditation, yoga, Pilates, any of those things. I mean, going for a walk in nature. I did that the other day, Saturday. It was actually a cool morning. We were going to be going up to the city for the afternoon, and I thought, I have some time. I just went outside, just nice and calmly. I listened to the birds. I got out in nature, It felt the cool air on my skin. It was amazing. And to me, without the phone and the all the nonsense, because a lot of times I see people going out there, they're out in nature, but they're listening to whatever, music or a podcast. The podcasts are bad, of course. I do one myself, but you need to give yourself a break and really just let your body to relax, and you need calm time. Right? Always being connected does not give you calm time. The challenges, of course, with that is then, we're always in flight or fight mode, flight or fight. Yes, I said that right. And then we're just increasing our cortisol, which just affects the way we're sleeping, the way our energy is, right? And our digestion. So again, going back to those three questions that I asked you earlier. So takeaway, first and foremost, eat real food, whole foods, right? That it has to be the basis of your diet, whether it's a plant, plant whole foods with animal proteins, whatever, but it has to be whole foods, right? Yeah, you can have a cookie here and there, right? You can have bag chips like I did the other day, personal bag of chips, right? But again, focused on real food. Pay attention to your body, the signals that your body is giving you, right? When we're always moving, going, doing, and not resting, relaxing, and just, being calm and being in the moment, we miss those cues, right? So maybe you're having some challenges with digestion, right? But you haven't picked up the fact that you struggle with digestion, after you've eaten cheese and pizza and yogurt and all of those things. Potentially you have a lactose intolerance. A lot of people do, right? And it seems like as we get older, we tend to, people seem to struggle with that a little bit more and more, right? But if you're not paying attention, you won't make those connections, right? And find a balance. This is never about perfection. Perfection does not exist. That is another myth. So that's another myth I'm busting. Perfection does not exist. Okay? It just doesn't. Sorry. Love for it too, but it doesn't. If we're always searching for perfection, we're always searching, right? If we're always searching, we can never find what we want, find what we like, find what works, and be happy and content with that. We can't always be searching, right? It can't always be perpetual motion. But most importantly, give yourself permission to create a version of a healthy lifestyle that aligns with your life right now. Not somebody else's, not somebody who looks great on Instagram and has all these followers, right? Not that person. Because what they're doing and what they enjoy is working for them, and that's great. And if you look at a lot of these people, a lot of these women are not our age, they're a lot younger. And what worked in your 30s doesn't work in your 50s. We know this. We're experiencing it. We may not have connected the dots. But when you're in menopause, starting in perimenopause, obviously, our body needs different things, right? It doesn't need the crazy workouts 3-4 times a week and all the intensity and go the body sometimes needs no, and that is just relax, go for a walk. Doesn't need that intensity, right? So it's about finding what works for you now, right? And what works now, we may have to tweak in a year from now, right? I mean, as we get older, things do change, and we have to be open to that. So if you are tired of all of this conflicting advice that's out there, and you're truly just ready to discover the best way for you to eat, to move, to feel well, and to live a life that is aligned with you, I'm here to help. Okay. Schedule a call with me. This will take you on that first step to building a lifestyle that is not about trends. It's about you. It's about time that it's about you. So I want to thank you for joining me today on Healthy Living, Happy Life. Until next time, remember, healthy living is about living happy on your best path is always the best way for you, right? Healthy living, happy midlife. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Healthy Living, Happy Midlife. My hope is that today's conversation left you inspired, encouraged, and ready to take the next step toward creating a vibrant, fulfilling life that you deserve. Remember, you don't have to settle for fatigue, brain fog, or frustration. Midlife is not the end of your story, it's the doorway to your next best chapter. And I'm here to help you walk through it with energy, with confidence, and with joy. So, if you're ready to take this journey further, I invite you to schedule a free strategy call with me. The link is in the show notes. And together we'll design a plan that works for you at this time in your life, for your body. So, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Catch the video version on YouTube so you never miss another episode. Share it with a friend who needs to hear that midlife can truly be the most powerful season of her life. Until next time, I'm Denise Stegall, reminding you that healthy living, happy midlife is just possible. It's yours for the